Welcome to the It's All Fine and Dangy podcast, where hosts Dan and Angie talk with creatives, small business owners, charities, and all kinds of interesting people. It's all real talk. It's all fine and dangy.
Give it to the dog. That's what we almost did.
Almost. It almost became a dog room. Yes, it's our baby.
So we are sitting here chatting with Chris Siciliano. Chris is a local teacher and a local actor. You know, our show is all about creatives. We talk about that all the time, and we're really excited to talk to you tonight. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I always love when we have creative people on because, I mean, I guess I'm creative in my own ways, but especially people that are into theater and acting and singing and play instruments and all that. I'm like a little bit jealous. I'm not gonna
The
lie.
acting thing, especially for me, I love it. I love the culture around theater, around acting, and I know you do too. We're going to get into that. But where do you teach, or where have you taught, or what do you teach? I'm curious about
Well, where I currently teach is Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando, but I have been Lake County, Volusia County, Seminole County, 5th through 12th grade.
Oh, wow.
Various subjects. English is the main thing.
Yep.
But I've taught theater when I was at a private Christian school, and I've taught journalism and film and public speaking.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, kind of ran the gamut of almost everything.
That kind of keeps it interesting, though, right? Like you have all these different, things that you are able to teach, and then to all those different age groups to kind of see the difference in how they absorb things.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty wild experience. I mean, and that will only happen in a private school where you'll have that many preps and that many different subject areas.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think I'll probably be an English teacher kind of from now on. But
Okay.
Did you always know you wanted to teach?
No, definitely not.
So how'd you discover that?
A friend of mine who is not in the profession anymore, which there's a lot of those now.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
she is a nurse now. But she was a teacher. We were doing some chorus stuff together. We were in Central Florida Community Arts Choir together. And she was like, I think you should be a teacher. Like, I think you'd love it. I know you love like English. You love the English language. You like kids and learning and education in general. I think you should be a teacher. She's like, I'm leaving the profession, but you should go into
We
it.
need somebody to fill my space.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and she was at a rough school in a really rough area.
Yeah.
So it was just
That can be trying.
not for her anymore. But she was like, go figure it out. Like, go do it. Take the certification test. And I did. And then I got hired over in Mount Dora High School.
Oh, I graduated from Outdoor High School.
How about that?
Oh my God.
So did my oldest son, and then my youngest son went there up until his junior year, and then he went to Lake Brantley his senior year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. I was there for 1 year, my first year teaching. Started in November. So mid-year, my students had been through 2 or 3 teachers already.
Oh, that's a tough gig to start.
So yeah, and the guy before me is like the coolest guy in the world. He actually won the Arena Football Championship a couple of years ago.
Oh, cool!
So he was like-
in Orlando Predator.
I
Is it
think
the
he was
Predators?
on the Tampa Bay Storm possibly at the time.
Oh, cool.
So like he was this long-term sub before me. So he was like cool, hotshot athlete, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then I come in and I'm this, nerdy, scrawny like dude who's never taught before. And they gave me my first year teaching, get this, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade English.
Oh,
Wow.
It would have been hard to teach one prep, let alone 3. They're like, when I'm going through the interview and they're like, oh, you're going to have 3 preps. I'm like, yeah, great. Sounds awesome. That's
You should
great.
just
Let's
take
do
it.
it. Well, I don't know what any of that even meant at the time.
so was it challenging to start?
Oh, yeah.
Was it?
I was horrible. I cried my first year many times.
Is it because of the students being difficult mostly? Is it? I would expect that.
That's a lot of it, definitely. And just feeling like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're doing. And I had an instructional coach from the district who was there occasionally to like sort of guide me, but I had no one on site. There was no like mentor that was assigned to me, which most places these days there is.
Yeah.
But
There should be,
that there just wasn't. And I was like, I'm teaching 3 different preps. I have little to no like curriculum guidance. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what teaching really is.
Yeah.
And
You were winging it.
and my guidance was that like a 70-plus-year-old woman who was from the district who had only taught math in her life.
Oh, goodness.
So she knew the general idea of being a teacher, and she had been in the game for a long time. But in
big
terms
difference
of
between-
teaching English in today's day and age, she just really couldn't help that much. She could teach with a little bit of teaching pedagogy, but like nothing in terms of like, how do I, do this specific thing with these specific kids.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like teachers, that are older that have, taught like when I was younger, it's changed so much that I think it's probably even hard for them to adjust to, So it's like they want to kind of teach you the things that worked for them, but it might not work in this day and age.
Right. As society changes, everyone's attention spans are shorter because of the internet and social media and all that. So I would imagine you're battling with that too. You were far enough into it by then to know some strategies on how to combat that, probably.
Kind of. I mean, the smartphones are one of the biggest difficulties in the classroom easily. And you can come down with like an iron fist and be super strict about it. But I was initially, and that actually didn't go very well.
Yeah, that's how I'd be inclined to be.
And now I'm trying to be more, just don't let it become a problem. And I won't let it be, I won't get on you about it.
Yeah.
Just you're responsible for learning, and I'm here to teach you. And you do have tests you need to take and things like that. So hopefully you want to succeed. So don't let it become don't be a slave to it, basically.
I love that you put that on the students, though, because especially when you're in like the middle school, high school, they've got to start learning those responsibilities of like adulting
for college. Yeah.
So, you can't go to work and, be on your phone all day. You got to be productive. So you're kind of putting it on them to make that a responsibility or to make that a choice.
Yeah.
And hey,
they probably like you more for that too, because you're not coming. Like I would be, like you said, I would be inclined to say it's a major penalty if that's out. But they probably like you more because you're saying I could be like that, but it's all cool. I'm just trying to be cool and teach you guys. Do you find that? I guess one of the questions I want to ask you is: you said your friend in theater told you that you would be good. Were you teaching in theater at the time? I wonder if she saw something in the way that you were working with the actors. It seemed like you were teaching.
No, we were just we were in choir together, and she just could tell personality-wise probably that I would be good, because you're performing as a teacher too, I think.
That's a great point.
I have quite a few friends who are performers and teachers, and it's you have to be on. Yeah, it's a performance.
To be a good teacher, I would imagine it is actually, because if you think, like, I don't know about you, Angie, but if I think in my mind it, some of the teachers I just loved the most, they were super entertaining. And that was part of the...
that's true. Yeah. When I think back to, it was like, you actually looked forward to going to the class because they had a story to tell, or the way they told a story, or there's the setup of, how they kind of approached a topic that you were going to talk about in class. It made it more interesting, and you're like, oh, this is a good class to go to, instead of the one where you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. God, well, more power to you.
To third period.
I can't imagine teaching teenagers in this day and age. I mean, I bet it's...
I can't imagine teaching any children. So, hey,
well, true.
Props. We've done a podcast a whole month where we did a special with different teachers, like from all the different age ranges and even up through college. Mm-hmm. And I props off. What am I trying to say?
Props hats to the teachers.
Props to the teachers. Hats off. Whatever you say.
Hats off to
all of it. Because
props off to the hats.
Props off to the hats. There you go. Speaking of props.
Yeah, good segue.
Good. Oh, I did it. Huh? So one of the things that you have a passion for is theater and singing. When did you discover that this is, was it like forced by a parent? Was it something you were actually doing at? Because, some parents are like, we're going to try this. We're going to try this.
I'm going to guess at where you got your love of singing. Was it at the Vatican on a field trip?
I actually did go on a field trip to the Vatican, but that was way after
and
the
you
fact.
Sang there.
I did sing there.
Okay.
Oh.
But that was way after the fact. So it all began.
Dan did his research.
It all began. I do remember... It's funny. I remember in second grade, the bug didn't bite me. I did in second grade do a musical about not being a litter bug. I still remember
I'd love that you remember that.
I still remember the song from it, which was crazy. But that was not. It wasn't at that point that I was like, oh, I want to do this. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I was in middle school, and we went on a field trip to Oviedo High School to see a production of Annie, of all shows, which I don't necessarily love that show, but I was watching the people up there doing that, and I was in 7th grade, and I was just like, ooh, I think I could do that. I think I'd be good at it, and I think I would really like it.
Yeah.
So I came home, I told my mom, and I was like, can you find me a local theater group or whatever? And then I found one. And my first show was Guys and Dolls Jr., and I was Nathan Detroit, which was one of the 2 lead roles.
Oh,
Frank Sinatra played the role in the movie. And I
how
was
old
like,
were you then?
13.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm good at this. Like, I walked in and I got a lead role in my first production ever. So I was like, okay, this is
at
cool.
that age too, that feels really good. Especially when you're trying to find your people, to find your place.
Right.
At that age, that you kind of were, I want to say, brave enough to go, I think I could do that. Because that's a hard thing, getting up on stage, and you're usually in front of your peers, like it's a performance at the school, and the peers have to come in and watch it. And so it's just, just takes courage, and to see kids get up and do that, I love it. But to know that you willingly did it instead of a parent being like, you're going to try theater. Because a lot of us parents try to get our kids to try new things, right? But you came home and like, hey, Mom, sign me up.
Well, that is the blessing of finding your people and your thing, because we talked a little bit before the show about, and I think you even mentioned it here about being a nerdy kid or whatever. And, I talk about sometimes how growing up here, I was like a nerdy kid when I was younger, and then I got in with a bad crowd, and then we were partying, and I always felt like there's a group I'm not quite into the right group. So if you find your people and you land right in there, even if it's all the way at age 13, there's a beauty in that, because I would imagine it kind of helps you coast through school then, because you have your group. I mean, even if you don't see them every day, you're not like, a loner and can't find your people and stuff like that. But it's funny you say that, because I don't act. I'm not in theater. But my daughter was in, she went through a phase where she was doing some theater work in some local community theaters. We'd been to shows, and I'm always like mesmerized. I don't care what it is. You can be like, Dan is never going to like this. And I like, what's the one we went and saw about the guy who was a ballerina?
The kid.
Billy Elliot?
Billy Elliot.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And
we were like crying.
And I could see my friends going, you liked that? I loved it. But it's literally all of them. So when
the boy that played the lead role, though, he was just killing it.
Spectacular.
So it was like...
They brought him in from... Was it the one at the Garden Theater?
It was.
Yeah.
They brought him in from out of state, because they couldn't find... Because you have to find such a specific person. And he had played it in Allentown, Pennsylvania. He lives in the Bay Area. Because a couple of my friends were in that cast, so I got to know
that. I mean, I did see that they're from, some of them are from different, they travel to do it. But yeah, he was amazing.
I want to say, and I might get this wrong, I want to say Tom Holland, he's the Spider-Man guy, right? I think he was Billy Elliot.
He did play Billy Elliot. Yes, he did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable dancer. There's a lip sync that he did to Umbrella.
Sure.
By Rihanna, and
I saw that on the
mind-blowing.
Oh, what's the show that's called?
Lip sync battle?
The lip sync battle.
Yeah.
It's where they try to one up. Usually their significant other or a friend of theirs or something.
Comes in and battles with him.
Oh, yeah.
And Zendaya just went crazy for it.
Oh, I bet. But you got to think it goes, because, he does a lot of those backflips and all that kind of stuff for real. It's like the perfect... It's like when they cast the guy for It. Did you ever hear the story about that, where... I don't know if you saw that movie, but the new version of It, the director was going to CGI one of his eyes drifting, and the guy who plays Bill Skarsgård, the guy who plays him, he goes, "You like this?" and did one of his eyes over, and he's like, so it was like, you're born for a role. So Tom Holland, when he's doing all those backflips and stuff, you could see him playing Jeremy Elliott because of the
Billy Elliot.
Or sorry, Billy Elliot. Billy Elliot. Barely Elliot.
So Dan likes to, when you said Jeremy Elliott, I almost had a heart attack, because, Dan will meet somebody and then he'll say their name and it's totally not their name.
And he's fully confident too.
Are you
Jim, it's great meeting you. My name is Bill.
So I've learned to, it's hard to say. For some reason, Billy Elliot.
It's because there's 2 L's and 2 L's.
Yeah.
Like
that's what it is.
If we've met someone, or even like the server at a restaurant or something, and Angie says, "Well, do you remember what her name is?" I'll give them a name, and it's nowhere. It's light years. It's not the same beginning. It's got more. It'll be like Abraham. The guy's name was Dave. The guy that does our yard. I said, I think it's Abraham. I don't know.
So far off. Oh my gosh, you're
God.
so crazy. Yeah, so we are about to go see actually Beauty and the Beast for our anniversary weekend at the Garden Theater. So
Some of my closest friends are in it.
Oh,
and
nice.
My schedule right now is sadly, happily kind of insane.
Yeah.
I'm starting rehearsals for School of Rock, the musical, tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
And I have rehearsals most days of the week.
Yeah.
And even weekend days. So my availability to see Beauty and the Beast was like, there were 2-ish days that I could maybe see it and or that my wife could see it.
Yeah.
But on top of that, there are no tickets left.
Right.
You can get single seats here and there on
Yeah.
a few of the days. So there were like 2 days that we had available. And the one day there are 0 tickets.
Oh,
And the
no.
other day there were a couple. But like I see a lot and my wife doesn't see that much.
gotta
trade
And we
off.
both have a lot of friends in this one. My friend is playing Madame de Grand Bouche or whatever. Another friend is playing Cogsworth.
oh wow.
So-
I'll have to remember this when we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So I am sitting this one out and my wife is going to see it.
Oh, that is very nice.
And I'll be
yeah.
home with the kids that
nice.
day. So
So you mentioned that your schedule's pretty jammed with practicing, and is it practice? Is that
Rehearsal.
What we call it? Rehearsal. I'm thinking sports, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not going to laugh at you. I'm over here talking about Jeremy Elliott.
Okay. Now, is that normal for you? Because do you stay pretty active? I mean, do you try out for one after the other? Do you get called back for certain plays? Like, how does it work?
yeah, as long as I'm going for something and I get it, then it's jam-packed schedule. I just finished up Ragtime the musical. Sadly, we had
Saw
to
that.
we had to end a week early because of COVID.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of cast members get COVID.
Oh,
so
no.
so we had to end the 4th week of our 4-week run. We did the first 3 weeks, weekends rather. So, but I had rehearsal for Ragtime up until we opened Monday through Friday, pretty much.
Wow.
From like 6 to 10. So,
Holy moly.
and then
That's everybody, that's volunteer time. You know what I mean? That's on top of your regular work schedule, on top of raising the kids at home. So question, usually we see this. So if somebody's involved in the theater and they have a large family like Chris does, how is the family involved in the theater too?
almost all of them also do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's normally what we see, which is really cool.
Even the 7-year-old has made his acting debut.
How
and
cool is
he
that?
and I will actually be singing a duet together from A Bronx Tale, the musical. My friend is doing a fundraiser. She's up for Miss Florida. So she's doing a fundraiser for her competition fees. And within the competition, she's also going to spread the word about childhood, I think, leukemia, because a friend of hers passed away from it.
Yeah.
So that's like her, because all of the pageant people, they also have like a cause.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
that's
part and
wonderful.
parcel.
Oh, that is wonderful.
So, but Peyton and I are singing a duet from A Bronx Tale, which they turned into a Broadway musical, believe it or not, A Bronx Tale.
I know
Wow.
that is amazing, though.
So I want to back up just a minute, though. So you're 13, you find your love of acting and singing, and then did you just start going back to back after that?
Yeah, whatever I could do, basically. I mean, I didn't have any other obligations besides school.
Yeah.
So I finished Guys and Dolls, and then I rolled into, I think that summer was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I was Potiphar, and then I rolled into something else after that. I
And you're-
stayed all with Orlando Youth Theater pretty much, which is
nice.
defunct now, but
Yeah, I remember them though. So you, if I remember, I don't know if it's always like this. I would assume it's more so even like this if it's a bigger theater. But even in like the little, what was it called in Mount Verde, Mimi's?
Mimi's Theater.
Mimi's Theater is where my daughter went. But you're practicing like 3 times a week there, and then you're practicing at home. So, do you ever have 2 roles at the same time?
I have had 3 before.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
how do you keep that straight?
Just compartmentalize and you just,
Get to where you know the story very well.
Yeah.
So you're between the acting, not to mention teaching, but just the acting alone. I would imagine pretty much every night you're having to go study your lines, practice your lines with the family, that kind of stuff.
Occasionally. I mean, I am blessed, thankfully, with a very, very strong memory.
I can tell
to
when you're
where-
naming like your first play and the part you had and the next one and all. That's awesome.
Once or twice through a script, pretty much, as long as I get it kind of ingrained. When we've done it a couple times at rehearsal, I'm pretty close to off book. I may go home to study the lines and run lines with my wife or my oldest son, or my youngest son can, not youngest, but 7-year-old can read a little bit now. So might enlist his help as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once I've done it a couple of times, I can pretty much just kind of roll with
Wow.
it. So.
Do you have to be
Lucky.
by the book, or can you wiggle outside the lines a little bit?
I mean, the playwright would like you to be by the book, and the director would as well. If you paraphrase a little bit here and there, like maybe, the verb is a little bit different or whatever, or a couple words are different.
Yeah.
You can probably get away with it. I actually don't like to.
Yeah.
There are some actors they're like, as long as it's very close to it,
Yeah.
like it's fine. I'm not going to split
It probably
hairs.
throws a lot of people off, I would
Yeah.
think, when you are like looking, you're listening for maybe a certain word to kind of cue you for your part.
next, yeah.
And then they say something else. You're like, hey, where'd the word go? I mean,
Yeah.
that's how I would be.
Plus, I would imagine that the playwright, and this is as a writer, I could see this part of it. There's a specific tone you're shooting for. And if you start winging it a little, you could change the tone of the story.
Yeah, you could make a drama, comedy, or vice
something.
versa, or, yeah, something
or
like
make
that.
make a scene not quite as intense or sad or dramatic as I meant for it to be, because you use something different in your verbiage there.
Yeah, and I just personally I'm just kind of a by the book kind of actor when it comes to it. So I'll be running lines and my son will be like, well, you said like one word a little bit different, but it was basically the same. And I was like, no, what's the one word that I said wrong? I want to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to be as like verbatim as possible, which is the expectation truly anyways.
Yeah.
But it's also just a personal philosophy that I want to be like that.
That's
Yeah.
correct. But everybody does it a little differently. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
So you're obviously, you have a love of watching plays as well. So does that help you when you do go to try out for something? You kind of know what the feel is of the play, and you kind of know what you need to give to the part that you're trying out for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I see a show. I try to see a show. And whenever I'm not doing a show, I'm usually trying to see one. I also know so many people in the Orlando theater community, and I just always feel compelled to go support them. I go as far as, because I've done shows all the way out in Melbourne. So sometimes I'm going all the way out to Melbourne to see shows that my friends are in that I've done shows there with, or Titusville or Cocoa, or, in Lake County, Mount Dora. Eustis, pretty much all over
the Bay Street,
Central Florida Bay Street Players. I did Legally Blonde out there, Bay Street Players.
Oh my God, Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
Love it. And then there's in Mount Dora, we have the Ice
House.
Ice House. Yeah, I know
Yes.
some.
Oh, yeah.
And then Garden Theater, and then Mimi's. Is Mimi's closed?
It's gone now. It's gone. I
closed.
don't know if it's a different theater now. You might know, but
Out in
Mount Verse.
Claremont.
Vaguely familiar with Mimi's when it existed, but
yeah, it was very small, but it was a very good place to get started if you have a little bit of anxiety about it, and you're a kid, and you're
very small and intimate.
and they tried to recruit me. They tried to recruit some of the parents. They actually successfully recruited some of them. The only reason I didn't do it, because I really wanted to, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And I felt like I know I could do this. But I didn't. It was my daughter's thing, and I didn't want to take away from the attention from her doing it. So it was like they asked me like 3 times. I'm like, no, I can't. I got busy at work. And meanwhile, I'm there every single time, every single practice.
Yeah.
And I'm like every typical parent, to the point to where my lips are moving with everyone when they're doing their lines, because I'd seen the practice so many times.
Did you have parents in the audience like that as well?
No. I mean, my mom wasn't like that.
No.
So, no.
But she's there to support.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. She's at everything she can, and my godmother as well.
Oh, nice.
Ever since I was 13, like my godmother's been to almost every one of the shows I've done.
Wow.
Pretty much since locally. But I went to college in New York, and no one quite made it all the way there, unfortunately.
Was your mom a fan of theater before you started doing it, or is that how she found theater? Because I know she's like a junkie for it now.
Yeah. I don't remember her being.
Yeah.
I mean, we lived in New York, and it wasn't like we ever went to Broadway, so I would assume probably
From
not.
you.
I think
Yeah.
she always was into music. I mean, I know growing up, always like my late grandfather, playing guitar and singing, like the whole family all together.
Oh, nice.
So the performing and the singing has always been there. But theater-wise, I don't believe, I'd have to ask my mother, but I don't think she got into it until I got into it. And then she eventually went full bore into it.
Yeah, she's definitely like, that is kind of one of her, you kind of made that like a little passion for her, maybe. Now, usually with theater comes singing, correct?
Yes.
I mean, most.
Well, if you're doing musical theater.
Is it always a musical?
That's true.
I do musicals like 90% of the time.
That's what I was going to ask. Like,
I've
is
only
that the
done-
ones you're kind of drawn to?
Yeah, I've only done a couple of what they call straight plays where there's no music involved. But that's because I've always been a singer.
Yeah.
There are specific straight plays out there that I'm like, I do want to do that show, like, even though it's not a musical. But most of the time I do musicals.
Do you like going to see shows that are musicals more than you like going to see? Okay.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
expect that.
Definitely.
Do you still play the saxophone?
I haven't. No, I mean, I could play it. Yes.
You can remember some stuff.
Yeah, I
right?
remember. I mean, I remember the fingerings and like embouchure and everything. So I could
Yeah.
definitely, I could pick it up and play. And sometimes like, I'm a crazy nerd and I'm a massive sports fan. Like I'll be watching.
I didn't think those two things were allowed to be.
I know. I'll be watching like the USC football game and I'll pull out my sax and start playing the fight song. While the band is playing, because I was in the band there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's cool. So you were in
Yes.
the marching band?
I was.
Oh, that. So you
the
did
University of Southern California Trojan Marching Band, which is one of the most world renowned of all marching bands.
Wow.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Those are amazing to me, especially when they do like the battles at certain colleges,
Yep.
do like the marching band battles. And oh my gosh, it's like, but I want to be in like a little drone up above seeing
All of it?
everybody like walk, because that is military stuff right there. Like, I don't know how they do it.
I can tell you that as a drummer, so I'm an old school 80s rock drummer, that the difficulty and precision of the drummers, especially the guys on the snare, that's like anybody that you see. It's funny because I remember back in the days of our bands when a guy would come in and play the drums, or I want to try the drums, and he's tearing it up. He's got all the rudiments together and he's very technical. It's not uncommon for those rock drummers to be like, oh yeah, I was in band, because that's where they teach you technique and timing and,
And the snare drums are the ones that kind of lead the band, right? Like
it depends on how you
They
look at it.
set
I
the
guess
tone.
I would think the
The drum major.
The drum
I
major.
mean, really is.
Okay.
But I mean, if you're, I mean, the percussion.
like the percussion
percussion's going to
kinda-
set
drive it.
Okay.
the
beat,
tempo.
The
Yeah.
tempo. Okay.
in a band, it's the bass and the drummer that like in a regular band, but not like in that kind of band. But it's still the drums and percussion. I would think it's like the bass, the guy who's hitting the head, but maybe not. Maybe that's the easiest one.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen those things?
Oh my God, yeah, they're
That
amazing.
can't be, but they're so huge. Like,
Yeah.
you have to like strong person to carry one of those things.
Oh yeah, and you're hitting it like you're not just carrying
And
it.
some of them like dance, like they get down
Oh,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so exciting.
And the thing, it's like this size. The thing they're hitting the drum with.
I know.
You know.
I know.
Yeah. I think it's the cadence of the snare drum probably that was the main thing, like when we were doing any of our steps and stuff like that, and then stepping off to like get ready to march. I think it was always pretty much the drums that were leading us in.
the
and stuff
snare.
like that, snare.
How I have to ask this because this to me was really cool. I don't know if you think it's as cool as I do, but how did you get involved in the Pirates Dinner Theater? acting?
A couple of friends of mine are in it that I've done theater with and choir with and stuff.
Yep.
And they posted auditions on Facebook. And I was like, I talked to my wife and I was like, I think I need to go for this. I was like, I don't know how I stack up with professionals. I don't know if someone's going to pay me to do this because I've at that point had only done really community theater.
Sure.
And had done some community theater where there was a stipend involved. So it was still quasi-professional, but I was
Yeah.
like, I just don't know. Like, I'd love to be in some of the shows at like Universal or Disney. I was like, but I have a 9-to-5 job.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I don't have the availability necessary. But I was like, but a thing like this, I was like, I'm pretty sure that as long as I have weekend and like nighttime availability, I could still do it. So
Right.
let me just throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And I walked into the audition and I knew the director because my son used to work at the Holy Land Experience.
Okay.
And he was in charge over there at the time.
Okay.
So he knew of me through my son and knew that I did theater and we were Facebook friends. So he knew that I did some stuff. But after I was done singing, he went, wow, you have a really good voice. I've never really heard you sing before. That was a great audition. Like he basically during that audition was like, okay, I'm going to be casting you, but wait for the official email and stuff. But I knew without a doubt leaving that audition, I was like, that's one of the best auditions I've ever given and the
nice.
best immediate feedback I've ever gotten. And then a week later, he emailed me and was like, we'd like to offer you the role of McGee and possibly cross-training into our other show, Teatro Martini, which I've yet to perform in, but I have trained into.
That's on my list of things that I want to go do.
That show?
Yeah, that's the one that they do. It's in Orlando.
Yes.
And it's like Broadway.
It's
comedy.
a loungy comedy.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
very like Vegas.
It's an
based.
adult
It's
show.
an adults only.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the same.
Anything that says
venue.
adult only you got us, Chris.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
we're
in the
there.
same venue as Pirates too. It's literally just
cool.
on the other side of the wall.
Oh,
like it's
nice.
incredible that they're the same building, same
I mean,
everything.
that makes it a lot easier
So-
for everybody that's kind of involved.
Yeah,
with
they've
both the
cross-trained
shows.
most of us into either one of the shows as long as they can find a fit for you. So any of
Oh
the
my
comedian, because I play the comedic pirate who's getting like beaten up a lot and has all the like funny lines. So there are 2 comedians in Theatre Martini. So they
Okay.
cross-train a lot of the people who play my role into those roles as well.
Well, I want to hold off on going to that. Let us know when
Oh, yeah,
you're
I will.
actually like in the
Yeah,
show
I would love to
and
come when you're
and-
there.
I'd have to find some Thursday, Friday, Saturday availability because I have done all the training to get into that
Yeah.
show. I've done the rehearsals. I would need a brush up before I probably went in for real.
Well, I want to see the Pirates show too, so we can
Yeah.
go see that one first.
Yeah.
Pirates, I'm getting pretty much at least once a week right now, but that's like the only night I have of it. Like I did last night. I was at Pirates.
Yeah.
Because
And that was like the very first dinner show, like a paid type gig that you ever applied for, right?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I have recently auditioned for Medieval Times, and I am waiting to hear. But it went very well, and the person in charge has implied to me that it went very well.
Oh,
And
nice.
Nice.
that it's a matter of time of when they're finishing up the rest of their auditions. But he specifically said, "You're a front runner."
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I'm like,
that's got to be validating.
promising.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that immediate feedback because you're already like nervous, even
Yeah.
if you're a very confident person, you got the nerves that are like, did I do good? Did I didn't? And if they
Yeah.
don't give you any feedback, you're like, oh crap. You start getting in your mind,
Right.
right? Of, oh, I could have maybe done that. a
Oh,
little
I've
better.
heard so many. So I'm also sort of, maybe you're like this too, but maybe it's just theater. I don't know, but I'm mesmerized by acting in general. So I will sit in bed at night on my iPad and watch like the actors roundtable discussions where it's like Hollywood actors and they'll talk about their process, or it's just something about it's very fascinating to me. And it's fascinating to me that some of the actors that have made it big time and have been in, they've won all these awards and they've been in all these movies, they still have insecurities about a role, or they don't know if they did good. And they'll tell, some of the stories will be like, I went and did like, I went to an audition and this, I wish I could remember who said this, and then their agent will call them and go, what did you do? And you go, was it good? And they're like, no, it wasn't. So getting that feedback right away is awesome. And I think actors, you could probably speak to this, but like to experiment a little bit with a role sometimes. And sometimes the casting
pays off.
director's like, that's it. And other times they're like, what are you doing? So it's, you got to really put yourself out there when you go
Yeah.
in. When you go to try out for a role like the Pirates thing, are you in a room with a handful of people? Are you by yourself?
Pirates specifically, there was 2 people. It
Yeah.
was the show director and the assistant show director. And yeah, they were the only 2. It was the guy who had used to be at Holy Land, and then a new guy they had recently brought on as show director who was also playing pretty much all of the Pirates himself. So he really knew the ins and outs of the show. Even the show director had trained into my role, McGee, and also the captain. So he knew the show from a performer standpoint as well.
Do they just pick a scene that they want you to do?
No, they just had me sing a song and then do a monologue that I had prepared. And then they did have they pulled a rope. It was actually in the Teatro Theaters where we had the auditions, and they had like a rope hanging there, and they just pulled it over and they're like, okay, well, the role is kind of physical. Your character, McGee, wouldn't necessarily be doing any of like crazy stuff, but there is a certain amount of like strength that would be needed because you are doing some climbing and things like that. So just grab onto this rope, like just, get comfortable, like grab on and then jump up and just kind of hang there. And let's just see like how long you can just kind of hold yourself up on the rope.
Okay.
Which McGee doesn't actually, he's never on a rope in the show, but he climbs up and down ladders, goes across a rope bridge, all while singing.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can't be like,
Right.
yeah,
in the
you got to
middle,
have some stamina.
Right.
And some
right.
what did the lung strength, which is
Yes.
something that singers practice.
Sure.
anyway,
Oh,
with
yeah.
your diaphragm and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you were fine.
I'm so curious about this part still, but when you go to do any real theater, is it usually just like 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 for your trying out, or is it just on stage like you see in the movies where it's like you're in front of everybody when you're trying out?
It depends on the theater. The Athens Theater where I just did Ragtime, The auditions actually were only via video. The callback process,
because of
though,
COVID. Yeah. Or no?
I guess so. They went that way because of COVID, and it seems like even though things have mostly gotten better, they're still doing that for the initial audition,
Yeah.
and then they bring everybody in for a callback.
Yeah. Just
So
to make sure it's not
just so
that
you
you can perform
and
better
you
in your
can-
room.
Yeah,
Right.
and you can weed out some people and things like
Yeah.
that through just the initial audition. So I got the callback process for Ragtime. I was actually only called back for ensemble roles, so it was pretty limited. But they had us do a dance call first with just the choreographer. And then we went upstairs because there was a 2-story rehearsal space where those auditions were. And the director was up there. Was the musical director there? Occasionally it's like the director, musical director, maybe the choreographer in the same room for that part of the audition. But it's usually a portion of the production team. Sometimes it's one person on the production team, but they're recording it to show to the rest of the production team later.
Yeah, so they can go back in.
So Medieval Times was one guy with a camera phone in a side room in the Medieval Times complex over in Kissimmee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay, I'm going to you got the script, just kind of read through it. Do what you're going to do. I'm going to record it. I got to send it to, the head honcho or
Yeah.
whatever. And
That's
that was
so
that.
ballsy to me to be able to
So-
go in and just, I'm going to sing and there's 2 people in the room, or I'm going to act out. You got to be very confident in your craft.
Well, I am confident enough in my craft that I sing in front of my students on day 1 of class. I have for the last probably 4 or 5. I've been teaching for 7 years. I've done it not the very first year, I don't think, maybe not the second or third year, but I do it now. And I put it to my students that you're going to have to be vulnerable at times to where I'm going to call on you and you maybe weren't paying attention.
Oh, I love
And you're
that.
going to have to answer a question when you're not really ready for it. So I'm going to put myself out there right now and do something also vulnerable. And I just burst out singing.
Oh, I love that.
It's a mix of like, my teacher's crazy. Why is he singing to us on the first day?
It breaks that ice,
Or
though.
this
you
is
know?
really impressive, and dang, he can really sing. Like I get a mixture of like all of that.
Because it also, I had such anxiety in school. It's like social anxiety in school. And I remember being called on and being like, I wanted to die. Like I didn't know where we were.
And I was like this.
Yeah. Because I didn't know where we were. I wasn't paying attention. And just to know that the teacher, it would make me want to put in more effort because, and so it sounds like you're a very good teacher. We can't validate that, but we can come see you act, which I'm excited to do for sure.
I did want to ask a question about like your process as you're kind of preparing for a role. Like what's your process going into tryouts? Like do you really get into it like right before? Do you kind of work your way up? Like what's just a process for a writer or anybody? What's your process?
Ideally, I would have been preparing for a little while for an audition, and oftentimes it's either a monologue and a song or maybe just a song. So it's, just singing the song over and over again, figuring out what is this character's motivation in this song? Why are they singing the words they're singing? How would that change the way you sing it? Because you have to act a song. And especially for a musical theater audition, they're looking for not can you go up there and sound good, because a lot of people can.
Yeah.
But that you can be believable in whatever role you have picked for that audition. It's not, and you're not going in with an audition song from the show. Like that's pretty much a no-go ever unless they ever specifically ask for it.
Okay.
You're coming in with something you've prepared. Each actor has like their repertoire, their book that is like, these are the songs I sing for auditions and that will hopefully get me booked. So like I have one that I use for
Your
kind
little
of
portfolio
rock
kinda.
auditions. I have one for more traditional musical theater auditions and things of that nature.
That was a great question and a great answer too, because I'm assuming it's like the inflection and the enunciation and the way that you would talk versus the way you would listen to someone just sing a song. And that kind of leads me to a question is, when you're doing a role, I would imagine a lot of the time, because in theater there are reoccurring shows that have happened all over the world, and so know the show already, you may have seen it already. How often is it a role or a show that you've never heard of before?
That's rare unless you're doing an original work, which
Sure.
I haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of those.
Right.
So oftentimes it's something I've been listening to the cast recording of for years, like Ragtime was.
Yep. And
So School of Rock, I saw the Dr. Phillips Center touring Broadway cast when they came through. We are actually going to be the non-touring Broadway Central Florida premiere of School of Rock.
Oh, cool.
So that is very cool because the show has never been done here besides when the touring Broadway cast came to town.
Oh, so it's like a
Very
local.
nice.
There's never been a local
There's
version.
never
of
been
it.
a local production of School of Rock before.
Oh, I
Very
love
So
it.
we will be
Cool.
the first ones in the region. So a lot of people will have never seen it before.
And what theater is that going to be at?
Theatre South Playhouse. It's an intimate space in the Dr. Phillips area,
Okay.
conveniently around the corner from where I teach.
Oh, very
So
nice.
for the first couple weeks of rehearsal, starting tomorrow night, I'm going to be at school all day, and then there is zero reason to come all the way home. So I
Yeah.
will just go
Straight
to
over.
Universal for a little bit probably, and then maybe to rehearsal because rehearsal's not till 6:00 and school's over at 2:20.
Okay.
So I do have a lot of hours to kill in between, but I could stay at school, finish up grading, or I can, just chill and stream something or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just head over to rehearsal around the time.
And when
it is.
does School of Rock start? Do you know the opening date for
June
that yet?
16th, I believe. June
All right,
16th to
perfect.
July 3rd. We run, I think, about
Well, we're going to drop some links in the
weeks.
show notes so people can get tickets.
Yeah. And then what's up after that? Do you have anything lined up or is it just
nothing at the moment. I mean, pirates interspersed here
Yeah.
and there, but the plan after that is actually for my wife to take a turn.
Okay.
So the fall-ish season, she will hopefully be doing a production of Into the Woods at a theater she's already performed at recently. They've kind of been asking for her back,
Oh,
and there hasn't
nice.
really been a good slot for her where I wasn't kind of already planning on doing something that I've wanted to do for a while or something. So that's going to be hard time.
I love that that's something you guys, have as your hobby together, as your passion together,
Yeah.
and that the kids are the kids are involved in it. The whole family's involved. I love when I see families that are like doing that together.
I do too.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out and talking to us tonight. This was super
Welcome.
interesting. We want to come see
Yeah.
you now. I want to go to the pirate show. I
Yeah.
mean, we can go to the other one.
Date night,
too,
baby.
But I want to, I know. I want to book it for real.
Yeah,
so I might reach out to you. I don't know how far in advance do you find out when you're going to be on?
Like a week.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
okay.
doable.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I might know, like for next week's schedule, I might know. They said we had to have our availability in by like the end of the day today. So more than likely, I might know next week's schedule like tonight-ish.
Oh, perfect.
So-
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
That'll
maybe,
be fun.
yeah, or maybe before you schedule it, you can text them and just say, "Hey, you going to be in the show? When are you
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be in the
that's
show?
what I'll do.
When are you going to be in the show?"
For sure. Yeah.
I love
awesome.
that.
I do too. And
Well, yeah, this was very interesting. I love hearing the creative people talk.
Yeah, and I
like you
love
guys are the
just learning about
creatives.
the process. I haven't acted, but I'm just mesmerized by it, and I think it's great that you found your passion at such a young age and have completely stuck with it throughout your
Yeah.
life, throughout marriage and kids and a day job. I mean, that's true passion to be able to stick through and keep doing it. And you're doing it all the time. It's not like you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I did a couple shows a year
I
just
know.
to keep my feet wet in it. You're really sticking with it. It's very impressive.
It is. It is. Well,
Love
thank you so much for joining us again,
Thank you.
Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
And, Dan has something a little to say about a little thing we started called Patreon. And I say that Dan has to say something
I
because
always get in charge.
I never remember the
link.
The link. I'm sorry.
That's the reason she
I'm
gives.
sorry.
But I think she just wants me to be the one asking for money. That's what I think it comes down to. Yes,
No,
but
I'm going to memorize it. I promise. One day.
so we did start a Patreon. If you'd like to contribute to helping the show, you can do so, and we greatly appreciate it. But you can do so by going to patreon.com/fineanddangy. That's FINEAND. DANJEE, or you can just go to our website at fineanddangy.com and find all the links there. I think we have levels of support from $1 to $3 to $5, but if you feel so inclined, we greatly appreciate it. And all the money that we make from Patreon goes to all the services that we use, like the background music and hosting the podcast and stuff like that, to kind of help us pay for that. So we greatly appreciate it.
That's right. Yes.
That's it.
It adds up, all these little things.
This is a passion project that
It
adds
is a
up for
passion
sure.
project, that is for sure. But we love having our local creatives on, our small businesses, small nonprofits, just having interesting conversations.
Totally love it.
And we will keep doing it until it tells us we're not doing it anymore.
I want to point out something real quick also before we wrap up. Angie has corgi socks on.
I do. And Chris has a Spider-Man shirt on.
I know. I love that, by the way. I love the socks too, but I love the shirt for sure.
I got these for Mother's Day from my
your
my
puppy.
baby, from my puppy.
We're those
Very
people
much.
now. We're those people
We're
now.
totally those people. And guys, with that, remember at the end of each and every day, It's all fine and dandy.
Cue the music right there.
There you go. That was awesome, Chris. You're a busy man.
So busy.
Time for us to
My book, Medieval Times. My God, I'm gonna have Medieval Times and Pirates, and theoretically raising 5 children and school. School will be over though.
Sorry, Billy Elliot. Billy Elliot.
What?
Barely Elliot.